So I have not looked at this at all. This is Prydwen's website. Prydwen is a really good source, has a lot of good resources for players looking for help. They got this, they have a questionable guide over here. I don't know how good this is. I wouldn't trust them. Yojimbo Blade, I think he's kind of a, I don't think he's that good of a player. But they have a lot of tools for players looking for help. And I appreciate the time and effort they put into their tier lists. They also have really cool resources for endgame. We're actually going to get a tally from a select group of players that we can, and actually like find the scores that players are actually getting with characters. And the same for Shiyu Defense and in Deadly Assault. So it's not just here's what we think agents can do. They actually take the time and effort to poll what the performance of agents actually is. Because in theory, you can always project, we think an agent can be this good, but reality can always be a lot different. And this is why I think Prydwen has actually the best tier list for Zenless. They actually update theirs regularly, and their data is usually backed up by the actual stats in actual performance. If you're wondering why didn't I make Prydwen reactions back in like 2.7 or 2.8, it's for this reason here. They didn't want to make any changes. So like there's nothing to react to. It's here's what we know, and here's the things they should change, and here's the things they should have already changed. They should have changed stuff a couple months ago, but they just didn't. So there's nothing to really talk about. All of that said, I am going to take this time to be a little critical about their tier list recently. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. That's you guys. You guys can't say anything right now, so I'll say it for you. I just launched a merch store because recently Polychromatica made some really fantastic, beautiful art that pictured me going crazy talking about Inferno Metal. And so I thought, you know what? This is really good, and I'd like to share it with you guys in an interesting way. So I thought, you know what? I'll just set up a merch store. Why not? I can do that. So I landed on Fourth Wall. I actually already bought the products myself just to verify that they are halfway decent, and they are. They're all right. They're pretty good. My biggest gripe is, of course, the price of shipping, specifically international shipping. I'm very sorry. I can't really control that very much. But purchasing all 5 items will give a $10.28 discount. And yes, the 28 cents is very intentional. We got a t-shirt, we got a mug, we got decals, we got a mouse pad, and we got a drawstring bag because I want to give back to you guys in some way. At least to alleviate some of the cost of shipping, my goodness. So yeah, that's it. If you want to visit the store, it should be right here in the link below. Click it on screen or something. I don't know how this works. Back to the video. Their resources are very good. Because they're good, I want them to be even better. I don't want them to just be good. I would like for them to be great. One of my biggest issues with their tier list was I think they used the partner tag a bit awkwardly. So as you just saw, I played Piper Nangong Yuzuha. And according to Prydwen, Piper only belongs in tier 1 if she has Vivian on the team. As you just saw, that's not true. Like, that is absolutely not true. But they didn't change that. And it's like, why? Why didn't you just remove the partner tag? Piper's performance has not been tied to Vivian. It was mainly just because the Miasmic Fiend was around and was like, well, I guess we need, Bernice isn't a good partner. I guess we need to use Vivian. And so it's just a little stuff like that. And according to the information I've seen with Valina actually scores better with Piper than with Jane. And so again, it's like, why does Piper have this partner tag again? She doesn't need it. Can we get rid of it? And that would have been fine if they got rid of it back in 2.5. It was up until 2.8 and she still had it. It's like, why does she have it? That doesn't make sense. That's a little bit of a gripe. Again, that's a really small issue. That's not a big deal. The other issue that I had was here they have Juyin in tier 1. Now, tier 1 means they are a meta character. That means they are good. That means they are really good. And we have Corrin down here in tier 2, which means she's off meta. Corrin isn't very good, right? That's what that means. They are literally saying Corrin is an off meta character. Corrin is not good. But the problem with that is when I went over here, and according to their data, again, what I think doesn't actually matter. What actually matters is the numbers that they are pulling. Like, these are the numbers you have. It's like, hold on, wait a second. You told us that Corrin's an off-meta character, and yet somehow the off-meta character is better, substantially better than the meta character? How does that make sense? Could you change that, please? And again, season 2 was filled with content for physical agents. Corrin's damage was more useful. Her best team is a mono physical team, and that synergizes really well with her Mindscape 2. And it's like, man, Corrin is performing really well, and that's because season 2 has been filled with physical weak enemies. Can we stop pretending that Corrin is off meta? Can we actually put her where she belongs and put Juyin where she belongs? Again, what I think doesn't matter. Based on your own data, Corrin outperforms Juyin substantially, period. Can we please put them in their right place then? Again, their tier list is really good. I really like it a lot. It's just these tiny little changes to make it even better, and that I would greatly appreciate. We're doing some Inception over here. My predictions for this tier list are that they're going to remove the partner tag from Piper because it's not true. Either they drop Juyen down from tier 1, or they bump up Corrin from tier 2. I don't think they have the guts to bump her up to tier 1. I think they'll bump down Miyabi. I don't see her performing as well anymore. I think we can stop pretending that Miyabi belongs in tier 0. And the other thing that annoys me a little bit is just the nature of tier lists. How many agents they have in tier 0. This is a personal thing. It's a complaint about lists in general. I don't like the 0.5s at all. I don't like how they are used because I like 0.5s when they're used well, or 1.5s or 2.5s. The problem is I don't think they are used properly. Half of these characters are just tier 1 agents, but for some reason we can't say they're tier 1 because people might not like that. So we'll stop on a 0.5. And it's like, why? It's very clear that you're trying to convey that Yishengguang and Yixuan are a tier above these characters. Just make this tier 1. It's like, it's very clear that Dailin and Nangong and Suna and Lucia and Yuzuha are tier above characters like Jufufu and Trigger and Zhao. Just make this tier 1. It's like, in no universe, if I were to ask all the people who make this site, are you telling me that 0.5 characters on the cusp of tier 0, you honestly believe Jufufu is on the cusp of being a tier 0 agent? Is that what you actually believe? You believe Trigger is on the cusp of being a tier 0 agent? Do you actually believe that? Do you really believe Orphe is on the cusp of being a tier 0 agent? Do you actually believe that? Do you think Evelyn is on the cusp of being tier 0? That she's so good she belongs in 0.5? Do you actually believe that? And that's why I don't like the 0.5. I think it's an excuse. We don't want to make this tier 1 because then people will get upset. Like, yeah, let them get upset. Just call this tier 1. If you want to make a 0.5, put Starlight, Billy, and Banyue in there or something. I don't know. Starlight, Billy, Banyue, Nicole, Lighter, Zhao. Just put them, maybe Promia too. Why not? Get those 5 characters in tier 0.5, bump everyone else down. It's fine. Maybe Sissia and Seed can stay, or Ambi, I don't know. I didn't think too far ahead. All of that to say, if this were my list, again, this is a personal thing, I would get rid of the 0.5. Just make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0.5s can be used if we are trying to convey they are just outside of the peak performance. I highly doubt that they believe Jufufu is just outside of peak performance. Jufufu, she's so close in performance to Dailin that she's right behind her. It's like, no, that's not true at all. I know you don't believe that, so why do you convey that? Back to predicting what they'll do. I think they're going to drop a lot of these agents down into the tiers that they actually belong in, instead of just being a holding place for, oh, we want to put tier 1 agents here, but we don't want to actually say they're tier 1 agents. I think a lot of these characters will be bumped down. I'm pretty sure Astra's getting bumped down. I wouldn't be surprised if Lucia got bumped down. It's a possibility. I just don't think they'll actually do it. I think they might actually bump down Yixuan. Technically, Yixuan is slightly better than Starlight Billy, but she's not substantially better than him, to the point where it's like, are they a tier apart? It's like, not really. Again, this is where like the tier 0.5 would actually matter. Like, oh, if you want to show that there's a tiny difference between them, yeah, 0.5's perfect for that. But you're not doing that. You're not using it in that manner. So like, why is this here? Why do you have all these agents here in the 0 category? That doesn't make sense. And the other thing I'm not expecting them to do is, there has been talk mainly from a couple people that they should bring back the stun category, and I'm not opposed to that. The problem is like trying to convey to players that there is a meaningful difference between stunners like Dailin, Jufufu, Trigger, and Lighter, and then Nangong Yu. Nangong Yu is technically a stun agent, but you read her kit and you read her W engine and you go, oh, so she's an anomaly DPS with really high days. And if you saw my stream, again, I showed this in the game. I played Nangong DPS against Dead End Butcher with Suna, Nicole. That team's not very good, and I don't even have her W engine, but I cleared it pretty well. If I had Nangong's W engine, that would have been an easy S rank. And it's like, do you rate this character as like an anomaly DPS? Like, probably not. Like, okay, then why would you rate her in, like, if you made a separate stun category, you would have to like give a tag that says anomaly, so that way people don't confuse, oh, so Yixuan's good with a stun agent Nangong's a stun agent. That means that's a good team, right? And you're like, wait, hold on a second. No, that's not how that works. And even then, you could also talk about Dialin's damage output. Dialin's damage output is really good. Do we rate her as a crit DPS? Half of her build is just load up on crit damage. Do you rate her as a crit DPS? It's like, well, probably not. You could, but you probably wouldn't do that. I think they're just gonna keep these 3 categories the same. I could be wrong, but let's now look at it. This tier list assesses agents based on their combat potential in the game's most demanding content. They'll have to add the new one too as well. And I do think the new hard mode that they made will be a much better testing ground to really prove which agents are actually good, because characters and agents are forced to have standardized builds. So all that matters is skill expression and being improv skills, being able to react to enemy attack patterns. This tier list focuses on agents' ability to attain an S+ rank, with partial rating given to even higher performing runs. As an action combat game, ZZZ offers combat options to players, some of which are not easily executed but boost certain agents' power budget substantially. Our goal is therefore not to assess agents based on speed run level performance. Placements will be evaluated with this in mind. So they're basically saying the assist counter stuff, like they're not gonna expect you to do assist counter stuff. And most players, like even the advanced players, don't bother doing it. It's just a bit too precise to use reliably. At the same time, focusing exclusively on casual play can be a problem for a tier list. Yeah, obviously. As a result, although the average player is always the highest priority, some degree of consideration is given to how well a character can perform regardless of their skill floor. The few characters who have speak technical requirements, that's what the expert tag is for. That's a good thing. I do like the expert tag. I like it when it's used correctly. Sometimes you could argue like, oh, you can give every agent an expert tag. It's like, yeah, you could, but like, I don't think Arya needs the expert tag. To assess their value, we proceed as follows. Assessment of the agent in Shield Defense and Deadly Assault. If discrepancies do not average out to a decimal tier, a slight bias is given towards Deadly Assault. Honestly, I think Shield Defense is actually harder, because getting an S+ in Shield Defense is much harder than getting 20,000 points in Deadly Assault. I think that is absolutely the case. And also, does it help that it's hard to assess for stage buffs specifically? And that's the other thing about tier lists, where if they are actually factoring in stage buffs, then like absolutely Starlight Billy is better than Yishuen right now, for a fact. Discounting boss weaknesses, like if the boss is neutral but the buff says here's a bunch of stuff for physical sheer damage, like okay, so that just means Starlight Billy is better. This is done as it is often a greater challenge than Shield Defense to obtain rewards by achieving a max score. This is old. I don't think they ever updated this since 2.5. If they're rating for getting an S+ in Shield Defense, that is actually much harder, especially because you can't re-equip stuff onto your agents. You can't swap equipment around. Assessments are based, you don't say, for every agent on the following indicators at once: personal testing, compilation of data, feedback from the community. And compilation of data should include like, hey, Corrin is like dunking on Juyen. Corrin players are dunking on the Juyen players. Can we please like reflect that in the tier list? Agents are assessed with good but not perfect drive disc. The main stats are considered best in slot. In their full best 3-man team, S-rank agents are rated at Mindscape 0, A-ranks are rated at Mindscape 6. The tier list assumes agents make use of their best option among limited or standard W engines, or rank 5 A-rank W engine. Okay, how do I phrase this? This might be a hot take. I think there should be a like a W engine tag for agents, because there is a meaningful difference between supportive ability from Trigger when she has her W engine and when she doesn't have it. There is a meaningful like damage output when Dangong does and doesn't have her W engine. So I think for agents whose W engines are extremely powerful and extremely niche, they're all niche to be fair, but there are extreme outliers for limited or A-rank alternatives. I think we should have like a tiny note on there, like, hey, just like here's a W engine tag, because that way players don't think, oh yeah, Trigger is tier 0.5. That must mean if I get Trigger, she's going to be incredible. She's just outside the range of tier 0. And it's like, oh, did you get her W engine? Because that's the thing that actually, like, that's what puts her over the edge. If she doesn't have that W engine, there's absolutely zero way she belongs in tier 0.5. You kidding me? Seasonal buffs and debuffs that change are not immediately considered, but extended periods of favorable or unfavorable performance may inform placement changes, like how Corrin should have been favored for her performance for the past 6 months. But what do I know? Roles: crit DPS, anomaly DPS, support. These are pretty obvious. whose primary function is assisting others, be it through buffs, debuffs, days, application, or any combination thereof. Role criteria: major influence, average agent's performance within the best possible team. Medium, agent's team flexibility. Medium is agent encounter flexibility. And minor is performance within the best possible team and ability to achieve the highest scores. So it's average performance, and this is max performance. I think they should put maximum or something there. These roles may overlap within classes, but remain distinct from each other. There are anomaly DPS agents who can do most of their damage through crit, just say Miyabi, that provide strong buffs, or support role agents whose value are judged by their personal damage contribution. Discretion is given to shift agents around depending on both their main purpose and other requirements that they may have to deliver. I think these two are fine. I don't think there are actually that many partner tags. This list, I can say it right now, this list will be awful if Piper still has the Vivian partner tag. I believe that they are actually going to change it. We're bringing back tier 1.5 and moving agents to fit within that format. Okay, so this is about what I expected. They got Yixuan out of here. They recognized properly that, yes, Yixuan is a tiny bit stronger at the higher neutral end compared to Starlight Billy, but that's not anywhere close to actually make a tier difference. They bumped up Promia, not surprising. Season 3 is going to have more stuff for her than it will for Miyabi, so they probably just swapped places. Arya being here is perfectly fine. Yes, they removed Astra, good change. Astra was nowhere near the level of these characters, especially because now the Astra players are really having to optimize her performance. For comparison, Astra gives her buff to one agent at a time based on her energy. Yuzuha just gives her buff to the entire team. Suna just gives her buff to the entire team. Lucia just gives her buff to the entire team, which doesn't really matter. You're only having one Rupture DPS on the team anyway. So this is not surprising at all. Obviously, this is the caveat of Ye Shenggong has her best team. Her best team is now a lot more expensive than it used to be. This is still a little bit more than I would like. I think I could argue putting Lucia down in 0.5, just because I don't think Lucia actually does that much. But again, this is assuming she has her W engine, and I think if her skills are maxed out and she has her W engine, I can see that, because I don't have hers. Yeah, these look right. These look all fine. Promia is the only one that's like arguably questionable because we just don't have a lot of time with her. Again, we'll see how season 3 pans out. And I've said this for, if you've seen me do teams, you know one of my go-to teams is Billy, Caesar, Yuzuha, and that's because Yuzuha is just that good. Like, obviously her additional isn't active in the team, and that doesn't actually matter. She just provides a giant buff to the team, a lot of anomaly buildup, a lot of damage in days. It's just really good. And a lot of energy, because her ult gives energy to the team. So I like this a lot. If Pan's in tier 1, then I guess we put Lucia in tier 0. I guess that makes sense. But if they put Pan in tier 2, I think you can put Lucia in tier 1. Moving down, this is about what I expected. I'm noticing some absent characters from this list, as they should be. I'm surprised they have Pyrois, Pirois. I'm gonna say Pirois because I think that sounds cooler. Pirois is in tier 0.5, and so is Valina. That's interesting. I'm surprised that they have Valina down. Not down because she just released, but I'm surprised she's not in tier 0. Maybe again, I haven't read the reason why. It's probably because she is functionally Bernice but Wind. And so because of that, it's not so much is Valina good, it's, well, who is Valina being paired with? Because Valina by herself can't really do much. Valina needs another agent to do the anomaly stuff for her. Does that make her mean she belongs in tier 0? I think that's an argument to be made. It's interesting we have we have 3 rupture, we have 4 we have all 4 rupture DPSs in tier 0.5. I think that's funny. Obviously minus Monato because he's an A rank and he's really bad with Yunquei tails. I think this is fine for Alice, and I think this is perfectly fine for Miyabi. I think the partner tag for Cecilia is perfectly deserved. I think that's fine as it is. The other character, I forgot about this. The other character who deserved a partner tag more than anybody was Orphe. Orphe didn't have the Ambi partner tag, and I don't know why. Like, very clearly, Orphe is not as good without Soldier Zero Ambi. Like, yeah, you can obviously do lighter Orphe, insert another character teams. Those teams are a bit janky. Her buff was clearly designed for Aftershock agents. I think this is mainly for a Shiyu defense thing. Out of all of these agents, I think Ye Shenggong is probably one of the best in Shiyu defense in her best team, just because she's always enlightened and she just does a ton of damage and she doesn't care about stun, so she doesn't care about the timer mechanic that much. Like, she doesn't have to wait for stun windows to deal a lot of damage. She can ignore that pretty well. I'm surprised they have Pirois this high though. I like to look at agents. I like to look at their internal numbers pretty closely. I think Prydwen's dodge counter is very low. And as assigned as like an on-field DPS, this is not a good indicator to have a really weak dodge counter. For comparison, Ye Xiongguang, a character who never uses her dodge counter, has a multiplier that's this high. If they believe he's a 0.5 agent, then he must be really good. I'm not saying he doesn't belong here. I'm just saying I'm surprised that he's this high up. People would be mad if he was put lower. Yeah, that doesn't matter. To be fair, they don't have any hardcore data for him. So I think this is the way of playing it safe. I think it would have been better to put him in tier 1 personally. Like, I don't see him, again, this might just be me because I haven't had a chance to play the character yet. I don't see him performing as well as Starlight Billy. Again, they have the Mindscape 2 tag, so it's like, if he's at Mindscape 0, I think it'd be fair to say, yeah, there's no way he goes up here. But at Mindscape 2, maybe. They also give away his W engine for free, so like that's fair. You don't have to worry about that. I just think it's fascinating that he's this high up at launch. She's on a watch list down. I think that's fair. I didn't mention this. I think out of all the agents in tier 0.5, I think we could argue Jufufu and Trigger go down. Again, if you want to say Trigger's W engine is the difference maker, okay, fine. Like, I think she could put like a W engine tag on her then. I don't know about Jufufu. Jufufu is made a lot better with Prydwen because she gives even more decibels. His ults cost less. Jufufu gives 300 decibels for using an ult. But I think Jufufu is only up here because of Prydwen. If Prydwen does not exist in the game, then I think they should bump Jufufu down. I haven't thought too much about that. Because again, tier 0.5 are characters on the cusp of being tier 0. And there's no way that compared to Dailin and Niangong, that Jufufu and Trigger are on the cusp of being tier 0. That just doesn't make sense. And I do think Zhao should be moved down one. Not because she's bad, but because she really doesn't do that much. Like, when you read her kit, it's like, here's 1,000 attack, and here's 40-ish damage bonus. It's like, oh, that's pretty good, but like, all your moves are kind of slow. You take a while to do much of anything. She's really only up here because of Ye Xiongguang. I said Niangong. Ye Xiongguang doesn't exist in the game. There's no way Zhao belongs this high. Again, in my list, I prefer to be like, not have the 0.5 at all. So like, you could just name this tier 1 and I don't think much actually changes. And that's why, like, if you're going to have a tier 0.5, like actually make it tier 0.5, you're going to watch list her down, then actually just do it. Yeah, Nicole's here. She only has the expert tag because her debuff has such a short timer on it. And if you could have her debuff up consistently, then she's really good. If you're really bad at applying her debuff, then she's not doing anything. Next up, the meta agents, tier 1. Wow, I didn't even notice they did drop Ambi. That's crazy. Actually, it's not. It's not that crazy. They dropped Evelyn, of course. I think she should have dropped a while ago. But they said like, hey, we didn't update this list for like 4 months, so we'll just do it all now. It's like, okay, fine. Orphe and Magus is here. Harumasa is here. Season 3, the Simulcron, whatever it's called. This is the first time players who joined after 1.4 can finally use Harumasa into endgame stuff. If you joined after 1.4, outside of Harumasa's agent story and the one story mission he's in the 1.4 story, it has been impossible to play Harumasa. So now they can actually play the character. And look, they removed the partner tag from Piper. Look at that. She did it. But now they stuck it on Vivian. No! Vivian has the partner tag. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. It's not that surprising. I'm surprised. Actually, I'm not surprised they moved Lighter down. They're probably pushing him down because even though in his teams, he is technically better than Dailin by a tiny amount, I think they're moving him down just because those teams could just use Dailin instead and nothing really changes. And also, again, he's kind of stuck to fire and ice attack teams because the game hasn't made new fire and ice attack agents. That means Lighter's performance doesn't really matter that much, whereas Dailin is a generalist and is doing pretty much everything Lighter was already doing, but for every team. So yeah. Unironically, I'm surprised Qingyi is still in tier 1. Like, what teams are actually using Qingyi? I wouldn't have pegged Qingyi as like a tier 1 agent. I think if any agent could drop, it's Qingyi. Again, because they put Pan in tier 1, I think Lucia is fine to put in tier 0. If they put Pan in tier 2, then I think you could put Lucia in tier 1. Lycon, if they're gonna put Jufufu and Trigger in tier 0.5, I think you could argue that Lycon also should go up there. If I had any changes, drop these 3, Maybe drop Yidhari, maybe drop Pyroise. Again, I haven't used the character, so that's not an informed decision. That's just a guess. Maybe drop these 5. Maybe drop these 2. I don't know. Maybe not. Because Cecilia is actually really good, as long as you have her W engine and you have a team for her. If you don't have a team for her or her W engine, it's like, well, what is she doing? Starlight Billy's performance is pretty much the same regardless of his team. It's just his team will just increase his damage. If you don't have a team for Cecilia, then it's like, well, her whole shtick is the DPS who buffs electric agent. So if you don't have electric agent in her team, that aspect of her kit is kind of wasted. I'm surprised they kept Yanagi here. I think it's fine that she's here. I don't think, from what I've heard, I don't think she's as good with Valina as other characters. And because we are shifting to a Vortex meta, Yanagi struggles in that environment compared to a character like Grace. Like, I think you could make the argument, especially with Valina. I think I saw it that Grace actually performed really well with Valina and Yanagi didn't. Again, I haven't personally tested that. I don't know how true that is. We love to see it, that like Piper and Jane are in the same tier. I think people now have to actually come to the conclusion that Jane is just not that good, period. Jane's Mindscape 2 was incredible. If this were Mindscape 2, put her up here. Put her in tier 0 if she has her Mindscape 2 with Alice. You kidding me? Her Mindscape 2 is insane. But she doesn't have that. Now, you could get it for free over time because she's in the shop where they throw agent they're giving up on selling. Yes, I am aware that they may or may not be doing stuff with Jane. It'd be so funny if they buffed Jane, only for her to end up still in the exact same tier as Piper. Like, even with a buff, it's too little too late. You got the swimsuit, you got the potential unlock, but it's not enough. Piper's still in the same category. Let's go. Okay, moving on. This is the tier 1.5. I think this is all fair. This is all really good. Freeze Turbo was Sokaku's best team. Now that that team doesn't really exist anymore, it's hard for Sokaku to stand out among her peers. I'm surprised they are just watch listing Grace up and just not putting her up immediately. I guess it's because Valina just came out and they didn't want to make guesses about how good Grace would be with Valina. Hugo, Ellen, Monato, Soldier 11, and Juyen have all dropped. Good. They deserved it. I wonder what they'll talk about why these characters dropped. I think the reason they're dropping is not because anything actually changed. It's just because of tiny stuff that they struggle in. Like, there aren't any real fire bosses. So like, what are you doing with Soldier 11? There aren't any real ether bosses. So what is Juyen doing? There really aren't any ice bosses where Hugo is good in Deadly Assault. So what is Hugo doing? Ellen has not scored better than Corrin in Deadly Assault. So like, what is she doing? And Monato can't actually get any stacks of Yunquei tails on him, so what is he doing? If he had normal adrenaline gain, the adrenaline for his EX was a normal cost, I could see him being in tier 1 easily, because then he would actually have more stacks of Yunquei tails active. That's a lot for your damage output. Having all 3 stacks active is pretty important. And that's why, like, I think he'll actually like Norma a lot, because Norma does give those chain attacks, I think, more frequently. Yeah, let's move down. Off meta. No, Corrin's still here. No. If any of these characters should have jumped up, I would definitely argue Corrin. Now, I do have this list of like, what's the difference between Billy and Corrin? It's like Corrin does really well in teams that cover up her weaknesses. And the good thing is the best Corrin team does cover up her weaknesses. And Billy is a character who kind of does his own thing and doesn't really care about what team he's in, which is why you see players doing solo Billy stuff and you'll never catch a Corrin player doing solo Corrin stuff. Because solo Corrin is just miserable. But solo Billy stuff is actually really fun. I would argue Kaleda shouldn't even be up here. Like, what is she actually doing? Yeah, I think this is fine. The one thing I will say about Caesar is that ever since I had my kerfuffle with my computer, I was reminded, I should say, because I knew this, I just forgot about it, that Caesar's performance is inversely related to the skill of the player and the quality of the device you are using. If you are a weak player on a bad device, Caesar is probably the best support in the game, because using her means that you can keep doing what you are trying to do and not be punished for making mistakes, either outside of your control or because the device you're using just ate your input and they didn't like you. That does happen a couple times. I just made a video where like I got hit at times I normally don't ever get hit, and it's like that's because I was compromised in how I could play the game. Also, from what I'm remembering, Caesar had really high scores. I forgot the context of this mode, but the average score for Caesar is this high, and the average score for Trigger was this high. And yet somehow Trigger is a tier and a half above Caesar, which is kind of funny. Again, there were reasons why her score is this high, because if you just put her on a team with Yeshengguang's a very selfish DPS. She doesn't really care about the rest of her team unless they give Ether Veils. So you just throw her on the team, she sits in the back for a while, and she just gives an attack buff. She's just a character you can throw in the back, and she will do her job pretty well. You don't have to worry about her. And I think the 1000 attack is equal to 300 sheer force. which is a pretty good amount. Obviously not as good as Pan's buff, but like for what it is, it's pretty good. Tier 3, they dropped Anton. I'm not entirely surprised. Anton is a kind of weird character. It's like he wants to be in shock teams or like turbo stun teams, but like Anton isn't very good in those teams. Like if you're playing a mono shock team with Anton, like Anton's probably like the weakest link in that team. Just throw in another anomaly agent and actually get a disorder team. And if you're in a turbo stun team, it's like, well, you could just replace Anton with any of these agents up above, and they're probably doing more damage anyway. But I do think Anton with Serpentine Seeker means he is in his enhanced state even longer, which is a good thing. I do think if you're an Anton main, you realize that this is the W engine you should get for him, because it's the balance of it's giving us a giant crit rate stat that it is actually good, and it is giving us a main stat, even though we would prefer like energy regen would be down here. This is a stat that Anton does actually want, because he eats through his energy really quickly. And unless you want to tie him constantly to Astra, spamming his quick assists, which is okay, but not good enough on its own. I think Anton is still the character that has the strongest damage multipliers in the game, but they're attached to him being in burst mode, and he can't stay in burst mode. So Anton wishes he could be in burst mode as frequently as Yeshigong is in her enlightened state, but he can't ever do that. If they have released a support that says increase the energy regen of the incoming character by like 100%, double your energy regen, all of a sudden that becomes Anton's next best support. Probably. Nekomata didn't change. I think that's fair. Again, this is Mindscape 0. At Mindscape 1, I think she does actually surpass Billy, maybe Korn, I'm not too sure about. I haven't looked at too much about the comparison between these two. One change I would make is to rate standard agents at Mindscape 2, just because Mindscape 2 is kind of a breakpoint for most of them, except Lycon, but Lycon doesn't matter because he's still the best one. So Grace has some really good buffs from at Mindscape 2. Nekomata has a much needed Mindscape 1. Kaleda has a decent Mindscape 2 with extra energy, so she can use her EX. Rena's Mindscape 1 is kind of important, a little bit, but yeah, these characters are still down here. Seth isn't good, unfortunately. The reason Seth is probably down here is Seth would probably be in tier 2 if his additional was not tied to his faction. Oh my gosh, if they got rid of his faction thing and just made it, like if they made it electric or physical, Seth would jump up. But no, it's electric or faction, and it's like, wow, that's very limiting. That is extremely limiting, because his additional is really good, but you can't really have it in most teams. And again, most anomaly teams are not like hyper carry anomaly teams. Those aren't good anymore. So the fact that he can only give his AP buff, which is a lot, but he can only give it to one agent, that's kind of an issue. Personally, I would probably drop Kaleda down to Ambi. I guess she's up here because her days is probably higher, but like, I don't think there's a meaningful difference between these two. All right, let's actually read what they changed. Considering their ether being one of the elements with a very high count of weakness matched enemies, they're well placed to perform. So this is kind of speculative. It's likely that they can match or even outperform many of the season 2 DPS. And while their future will be dependent on how good their mindscapes end up being, as of their release, we expect to see strong scores. I would comfortably say they're probably better than Juyen at the very least. Valina, at first there isn't much to her than Wind Anomaly, and that's fair. I guess the other issue with Valina is that because she's the only Wind agent right now, this is like the best she's going to be. As soon as they introduce more Wind agents, her shtick of being the Vortex generator is going to probably decrease in value. Because if they make a support that functionally does what Valina does, but just say I'm a support agent and not an anomaly agent, her value will probably decrease relatively. That's my guess. I think it would have been perfectly fine to make Valina tier 0 and make Pitoise tier 1. I wouldn't have been opposed to that. All right, let's look at these. Yixuan has for a long time been a dominant agent that had both routinely received favorable treatment in endgame and a solid pick to brute force neutral stages. When Yixuan released, people were like, oh my gosh, the game's going to turn into like Rupture meta. The only thing that will matter is Rupture. And it's like, no, that never happened. All they did was like release highly niche Deadly Assault and Shiyu defense buffs. This is still factoring into her rating, as the tier list has to evaluate current performance. That is true. However, while she is still a valid brute force option, she is no longer the dominant force she once was. It's odd that they are saying she was rated high because of the ether element having multiple favorable matchups, when they didn't give that benefit to Corrin. Zenless has attributes, not elements, but that's a minor thing. No one cares about that. As far as we're concerned, Yixuan is still an incredibly powerful unit that's capable of brute forcing most content. They're repeating the same thing. But with Starlight Billy's release, who can match or even exceed her in pure damage, it's clear she isn't quite the top DPS she once was. This is a kind of frustrating thing with Prydwen. It's like, you knew, so you already knew this. Even in your 2.8 tier list, you're like, nah, we're not gonna drop Yixuan. It's like, why? Like, just drop her. It's fine. Like, players know. Players know that Yishwen's not as good as she used to be. Just drop her in 0.5. Schwad, that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't really matter if the community would riot about it. They have the data to back it up. Like, they have the data to show that her performance is not meaningfully higher than the other agents. We would see that, oh, so like the combined data, Billy, Starlight Billy, Yidhari, and where's Banyue on here? Banyue, like these are all outperforming, they're all outperforming her. So like, yeah, just drop her, it's fine. Like it's not just, so here's what we think. Like, no. You can just point to the data and say, actually, it doesn't matter what we think. We have the data to prove it. And that's why, again, I'm surprised Prydwen isn't more aggressive with their ratings. I don't know why they're scared to make changes. Because they can just say, again, we have the data. It doesn't matter what we think. The data proves it. Nothing has changed about Yishwen. It's the content around her that is changing. Which again begs the question, if you're saying, oh, she's good because she has all these ether elements buffing her up, why were we not doing the same for Corrin? It doesn't make sense. Evelyn, I forgot they removed the expert tag from Evelyn. I didn't even notice that. That said, Orphe is such an easy character to use that her scores tend to be on the higher end. That is correct. The reason Orphe's scores are higher is because the only way you can misplay the character is when you actually switch to her. And fortunately, Orphe is a character who you never switch to, except to use your empowered EX and to use your ultimate. My Soldier Zero Ambi is tier 2 for a very, not tier 2, is Mindscape 2 for a very funny reason. I got her Mindscape 1 trying to get more copies of Pulchra, and then I did a 10 pull on her triple rerun banner and got her for free, basically. So I have a Mindscape 2 Soldier Zero Ambi, so I have a skewed view of how good she actually is at Mindscape 0. Because you can't deactivate Mindscapes still. That's really annoying. We should be able to deactivate Mindscapes. Whatever. Ellen, down to tier 1.5. They put her in tier 2 already. She's not better than Corrin. From the runs that I've seen, Corrin has consistently outperformed Ellen. So, why is Corrin not in tier 1.5? It doesn't make sense. Don't make me pull up the data chart again. Here's Corrin, here's Ellen. Why is this character in tier 2 and this character above her? Doesn't make sense. Ellen is another season 1 crit DPS that had a long run owing to her potential unlock. There are fewer and fewer opportunities to use Ellen. With the return of 1.5, it's a more fitting label for her current performance. Hugo has really struggled, no shock. I think this is perfectly fair. Hugo is a make or break agent. In some modes, Hugo is incredible. And when you get to them, Hugo is incredible. And when you don't get to them, Hugo is awful. Hugo does more damage to neutral enemies than to Wandering Hunter because of his 66% increased defense. HP inflation has made killing Sobek on Thrall a near impossible wall, and for some reason Shiyu Ice Week has been compromised solely of low stun duration enemies, Myazic Monato, or double defense against 66% defense, Hator. Pray for Marionette, which he still isn't great at, or brute force him against Notorious Pompeii? Question mark? It also hurts that Dylan doesn't really help him out. Of all the characters that Dylan has buffed, Hugo was not one of them. Monato, there isn't much to say about Monato. He's a decent filler Rupture agent, but he's kind of clunky. He can do stuff in Fire Week content. He's a great pick against Wandering Hunter, but he's not particularly exceptional at anything. As far as A rank goes, he's one of the better DPSs, but his damage and performance do not justify a tier 1 level. That is true. As a result, he moves down into a 1.5 placement. The other issue with Monato is that despite also on top of being clunky, he doesn't have any range on his attacks. On top of not canceling his moves very well, once he starts doing a move, he's kind of stuck in there. When you do his assist follow-up, if an enemy decides to move, then there's nothing you can do about it. If you've tried using Monato in Shiyu defense, you realize, oh, so this is kind of tough. This is a struggle. Monato really struggles to hit more than one enemy on the field, and that's kind of an issue. His chain attack and ultimate are pretty good at doing it, but his assist follow-up is not. And I said this for a while, I didn't think Monato belonged in, not that he belonged in tier 2, but he was like obviously on the weaker end of tier 1. June has managed to hold out for a very long time. Bosses have demanded defensive assists, and this has limited her performance when being run with Astra. Granted, you don't need to run her with Astra though. Like, you can just use her with Suna though. Am I crazy? Soldier 11 tier 1.5. And while she does certainly have the ability to get good numbers, there aren't many places where she can do so, given the lack of relevant Fire Week content for her to be used in. Mainly, it's just been Wandering Hunter, and you can use that, it's just not as good. When Norma comes out, this might change. Anton! I forgot they removed the partner tag from Anton. He can make do with Cordis Gemini, Germina, I can't read that. This is crit rate and more crit rate and more damage. Okay. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I think Anton's a bit too power hungry. I think Cordis Germina is like the highest, is the best damage buff for Anton, but like what Anton needs is not really a damage buff. He needs a way to stay in burst mode infinitely, to never lose energy. He doesn't have that though, so that's rough. That's rough. Promia, as time has gone on, it's clear that Promia is not just strong, she's very strong. I was shocked they didn't put her in tier 0 to start with. Miyabi, tier 0 experts to 0.5. Oh no, it's over. It's like, it's been over. They should have done this 4 months ago. To dare move Miyabi down again is a walk to the gallows. They moved her down. It's so funny. They moved her down, they brought her back up, and they move her down again. Nothing about this character has changed, by the way. This character is still doing the same thing she always did, but for some reason, we dropped her down, moved her back up, and dropped her down again. Why? Who knows? I think they should have, honestly, I'm of the opinion they should have kept her down in 0.5. They should never have moved her. That's my opinion. Because obviously it's like, yeah, in specific matchups, she was the best because of ice stuff. As soon as her tailor-made season 1 ice bosses were gone, what is Miyabi doing in tier 0? And the last time she was moved, things quickly changed around. That is true. I think they moved her at the wrong time. As soon as they moved her, we got a ton of season 1 bosses that she bullied. So that was funny. I wonder if this changes if we account for Jane's Mindscape 2. If you allow Jane to have her Mindscape 2, what do we do with Alice at that point? Vivian drops down. The partner tag, once reserved for Piper, has now been given to her. Piper has been buffed. No, she hasn't. She's exactly where she should have been without this. Piper's performance was previously very much dependent on her ability to trigger Vivian's blooms quickly. And the fun thing was Piper was doing it so quickly that Vivian could never keep up. Like, Vivian was slow in that team. Unironically, if Miastic Fiend was neutral to fire, they probably would have gotten rid of this partner tag. Because when the Bernice buffs came out, you'd be like, oh yeah, Bernice, just throw Bernice on the team, that's fine. But then they decided, no, actually every anomaly enemy needs to resist fire. It's like, why? Why'd you do this? And with Valina's arrival, it seemed at first as if Jane's crit vortexes would bury Piper's competitiveness as a physical anomaly agent. Sometimes though, quantity is better than quality, and with how high Piper's anomaly buildup is, she can sustain so many vortexes that she's able to at least match Jane in performance. That's crazy. It's like, yeah, you know what? Piper's anomaly buildup is just so high that it doesn't matter. And that's fair when you consider her best W is practice perfection. But with the rise of Wind Shield lessening the value of Disorder, Grace is perfectly placed to capitalize on new mechanics to the point where we find her deserving of a bump up. This is why I think you could actually justify evaluating standard agents at Mindscape 2. I think at Mindscape 2, Grace does perform much better. More energy for the team, which means also more energy for Valina, and you also reduce the enemy's electric resistance and electric anomaly buildup resistance, which is actually pretty good. It would be so fun. I hope it would be hilarious if they do a potential unlock for Jane, and then Jane doesn't move at all on the tier list. That would be hilarious. Astra, when she released, Astra was the support. Yes, she was. Then came Yuzuha, being a dedicated anomaly support and also really good in attack teams. Like, Yuzuha was just really good. Like, Harumasa really likes Yuzuha. That's the other thing. They're not saying it here, but like, Yuzuha is actually really good in attack teams, especially physical attack teams, because again, more assaults, more days. The other thing they're not listing here is that it's very easy for Astra to lose her buff. When other characters switch in through these methods, Astra will consume 25 energy and will give her attack buff to them. This is a buff up here. So the problem with this is that there are times in a fight, especially now with control phases, where you have to switch. You are forced to switch. And even in the middle of the fight, there are times when you will just be not forced, but it is optimal to use a defensive assist or a quick assist or a chain attack. Like, I have to switch at this moment. And because of that, there are many times when Astra will just give her buff to the wrong agent. And because this is only on one agent and it consumes energy, when you play Astra, you have to go out of your way to make sure, one, that she has enough energy, two, that you don't give her buff to the wrong agent at the wrong time. Because it's okay if the other agent steals the buff, but you don't want them to steal the buff back to back. Like, that's really bad. So there's a lot more effort you have to go into playing Astra well. Where it's like, it's gotten to the point where we really need to min-max this character to get on the same level as Suna, a character who just presses EX and doesn't do anything. Suna is the character people thought Astra was. People thought Astra was the brain dead, you press EX and never see them again. No, that's Suna. That's what Suna does. Astra has to work for her stuff now. Other than Evelyn and Soldier 11, who value the extra chain attack, Astra doesn't fill a priority slot. Well, this is before Pitoise Pyroas came out, of course. If she could just give her buff to the team, I think she would deserve tier 0, but she doesn't. They should have dropped her down when Suna released, in all honesty. Zhao is one of those other agents that you look at them. You look at their W engine, you look at what they do for teams. She does stuff with max HP. She grants HP regeneration. Her W engine increases teams. Her Ether Veil increases your max HP. Like, you would think she would be for Rupture teams. Attack, anomaly, or support. Okay. That's really weird. Yeah, I don't know why. Again, I think anomaly is only here so that new players who were just joining would get an immediate smiley face when they paired her with Arya. That's the only thing I think she had going for her. Otherwise, you're like, why is anomaly here? There are 0 anomaly agents who actually care about her. Arya doesn't really need her. She generates so many glow sticks without her. It's just odd. And in her very first beta, she was a much more generalist character. She had like a different additional ability for every different class in the game. It was crazy. It was wild times out there. Now, you can still use her in Rupture teams. It's just you'd have to use a support character, which is like Lucia, or like an attack like Orphe. You put Orphe in the team. Sure, go for it. I don't know. All right, Lighter. Lighter's dropped down because he's too niche for his own good. He's too niche, and the teams that he's niche for have not gotten new bosses. That's why he's not very good. I know for a fact that's what they're gonna say. So Kaku, they're gonna say, hey, Mono Ice doesn't really exist, so we're dropping her. That's fair. I wonder if you can use, I wonder if the Sokaku players will, actually no, you can't, because Valina's additional requires wind or anomaly. So until they release a wind support, you probably don't want to use Sokaku in that team. Even then, I don't think Sokaku's additional is that powerful, so you can go without it. I think her additional is like the ice damage buff. I think. Yeah, it's an ice damage buff, which is not the end of the world if you don't have this. All right, that's the tier list. That was a long recording. I'm going to cut this down to pieces. Sokaku does consume Vortex? Okay. Oh yes, Vortex, that's right. Sokaku, the wind agent. She does stuff, she does Vortexes, guys. That's crazy. Like, wait, no, that's a different Vortex. If you want to subscribe, you can. You don't have to. If you like this video, leave a like or recommend it to someone. That's up to you. If you want to become a sponsor, if you like this video and you want to sponsor it, you can always become a sponsor of the channel by just becoming a member. You don't have to, don't give what you don't have, but I greatly appreciate all my sponsors. Shoutouts to my super sponsors, Caligula138, I Love My PC, Jam Jalopy, Superbro64, and Tactail-like. Thank y'all so much. And yeah, that's all I got. My name's Yojimbo Blade, and I hope y'all have a blessed day. See you soon.
Brothers and sisters, as is universally known,
did they get the Joey Wheeler VA? What the heck? It sounds exactly like Joey Wheeler. I can't believe it.
Try harder next time.
Is that Joey Wheeler? No, man, it's his cousin Jesse Wheeler.
That's so dumb.